for joining us on Thursday's edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Esther Mopariola. Today on the program, Akeredolu, Jegede and Ajayi in battle royale for Ondo state governorship election on Saturday. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, while Wale Adeoye will join us via Skype for in-depth analysis of the poll. Journalist Hangout starts now. The impending governorship election in Ondo State is a contest among tested foes in a familiar terrain. So, the build-up has been characterized by tension and high expectation. The incumbent governor, Rotimi Akeredolu of the All Progressives Congress, will be challenged once again by his main rival in the 2016 contest, Jegede of the People's Democratic Party. Well, the contest has been widened by Ajayi of the Zenith Labour Party, who was running mate to Akeredolu the last time out. 13 other contestants are also taking part in the election, but it will be a veritable battle for votes by Akeredolu, Jegede and Ajayi. Will history repeat itself in Ondo State on the 10th of October? Babajide, let's start with the desire for credible elections. What are your expectations now for Saturday's election?
Well, I expect that all the stakeholders in the electoral process will play by the rules and will have free, fair, and credible elections. I will expect the police and the army to be impartial. I expect them to behave themselves, not support any party, because we've seen that happen on a number of occasions. We expect the political parties to rein in their thugs. Let us have peaceful elections, because even INEC needs a peaceful atmosphere to be able to deliver on its mandate of giving us free, fair, and credible elections. Because how do you move equipment and men from location to location if the prevailing circumstances are not peaceful enough for such movement to take place? We don't want to see ballot box snatching. As I said yesterday, yes, Edo was largely a successful election, but it does not mean that the election in Edo was perfect. It was far from being perfect, especially because of the massive use of money to buy the conscience of our people. So I expect that there will be improvement on what we had in Ondo, and INEC has promised us.
In Edo, you mean?
In Edo.
Right.
INEC has promised us that it will improve on its performance in Edo State. So I can only hope that INEC will live up to its promise to give us a credible and well-organized election.
Right. And so those expectations are not short of what majority of Nigerians would want, I'm sure. But Wale, let's get your perspective. What are your expectations on Saturday's election?
Well, I think there are 4 important areas that can determine whether an election will be free or fair. The first one is the voters themselves, then the political class, then security, and then the media, which also involve the social media. The media should not, especially the social media, should not try and take the functions of INEC by announcing the results even when the results are yet, the election is yet to be concluded. Then the political class should try as much as possible to conduct themselves in a credible and transparent manner so that the outcome of that election will command public respect. And the voters, we hope that people will not sell their liberty for a porridge. People should not allow their conscience to be bought. And then we call it the security operatives should conduct their duties in a non-biased manner, in a way that we, command public respect. So I think these 2 areas are taken care of. I think we are likely to be proud of this election.
Indeed. So, but, BKO, with all this point has been raised, there are concerns also of how to ensure a participatory democracy in our country. How can we deepen this practice today?
Yeah, we certainly will achieve greater participatory democracy when our people can see clearly that it makes sense to invest their faith in the process. Many people have lost faith in the process because they believe that their vote will not count. So you tell them to go and vote, they will say, no, I can't go and line up in the sun for results that had already been written, And this kind of cynicism is dangerous because what it will lead to is the people who do not deserve to be leaders emerging as leaders. When you simply leave everything to them, that look, they can go ahead and conduct the election the way they like, you are saying that whoever emerges as your leader is not your business. I've always advocated for peaceful conduct of elections in our country because I know that if we can have a succession of peaceful, credible elections, the election needs to be peaceful for people to have the confidence of coming out to exercise their franchise. That's one. But it also must be credible, which means that the votes of the people must count. If we have a succession of credible elections where the participants play to the rules as stipulated by INEC, elections where, as INEC had insisted, the card readers are used as a means of biometric verification of the so-called eligible voter, definitely we will begin to have leaders that are truly responsible to the people because they will now realize that, look, they drew their, they became winners because the people voted for them, not because they forced themselves on the people. What we sometimes have is a situation in which it is the barrel of the gun that prevails. You can hear the governor of Kogi State still singing the abnormal songs that they sang, threatening people and using guns to chase people away. He still had the guts to go and sing that song during the campaign yesterday. That's not what we want. You can't be threatening people that if they do not agree, then they will hear ta-ta-ta. No, that's not an election. It's barbarism of the highest order. Let our people choose the leaders that they want. They will now feel comfortable to participate in the process. And that's what we call participatory democracy.
Right.
Whereby the citizen exercises his own right to freely choose his leader. It should not be the barrel of the gun that determines who wins an election. No, it should be the people.
In as much as the people are made, or should the onus lies on them to choose who they want, do you think perhaps electronic voting is the answer to ensure we have a peaceful, credible election?
Absolutely. I've seen it work in other lands. I've seen it work in India. You are not going to rig the election. And that's the world's largest democracy. If they do an election today, by the next day we know the winners. In our country, it's just a population of estimated population, not based on census, of 200 million. We can't do an election and you can be sure that for the presidential election that the next day the results will be totally out. No. We are still largely manual and we think it's something to be proud of. No, we can't be proud of that. At some point, technology must get involved in helping us to choose our leaders. Technology that is inviolable, that people cannot tamper with, that people cannot rig. That's what I'm talking about. So I've suggested, let our people ask how it is done. Let our leaders ask how it is done in India, for example. How are they able to do it? It's 100% Indian technology. We can borrow the technology. And we can, after all, great countries of the world, in some cases, even stole technology from one another. What was called industrial espionage in the 18th century, 18th and 19th century. So I believe that technology can help us to get there. Technology will help us ensure that if you are not qualified to vote, at the point of accreditation, they turn you back. It will also ensure that the votes of the people count. So I'm a believer in electronic voting, but it has to be the module, the electronic voting module that we choose must be the one that we are sure has been tested in other countries of the world and found to be tamper-proof.
Indeed. So, Wale, with this position made by BKO, do you think the government of today will have that will to, practice electronic voting? Because even though it is yet to be before the National Assembly for the president to assent, for our president to assent, do you think there's a level of political will on the part of this government to ensure this see the light of day? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think I agree with what Babajide said, that electronic voting is the best for us because it's going to eliminate all sort of friction. And I think there's no justification for us not to have electronic voting, given what is happening in other parts of the world. And I actually believe we have the experts that can develop the software. There are lots of Nigerians working in other parts of the country, in Asia and in Europe, who have helped to develop a lot of softwares to advance the electoral process. I believe we have the technical experts that can do it for us. My fear is whether the political class, whether they have the way, to ensure that we have electronic voting, because a situation where people want to come to power by bribing voters, they want to impose their will on the people, they want to come to power by all means necessary. They are contemptuous of the voters. They don't have trust in the voters. They don't actually believe in the democratic process. So if we expect these people to be the ones that will push for electronic voting, it may be difficult. But we should not be left for the political class alone. Nigerians, as voters, we must know that it's in our own interest. So we have to push, the media, the civil society. We have to constructively engage the stakeholders and ensure that at the end of the day, the National Assembly will have no option than to pass that bill into law, so that we can have electronic voting as a starting point to consolidate a democratic process that will command local and international respect.
Babajide, he also mentioned something about vote buying, which you mentioned, in yesterday's edition of the show, which is a major issue in Nigeria's electoral process. How can we deal with this big challenge, even though it is, a work, is a work in progress?
It's like something that has come to stay. You see, it began like a joke. Politicians have always bought votes, but not on this scale. The present generation of politicians are so devious that the extent to which they go to buy votes is unprecedented in our history. During the Awolowo era, especially during the Second Republic, people bought votes, but not on this scale. 1999, 2003, 2011, 2015. From 2015, it began to be a real problem for us. From 2015, politicians now began to imagine that, look, they cannot win an election unless they outspend the opponent. So money is now allocated per polling station. For example, in Ondo State, they have 3,009 polling units, polling stations. Politicians, the two parties have, the three parties, the three parties now, the three
The strong,
most dominant parties
dominant,
now,
yeah, dominant
have
parties.
allocated funds to each polling unit. I know a party, for example, that has allocated 1,750,000 to each of the polling units in Ondo State.
Oh boy.
So if you do the maths, you know what that will come to. So it's billions now. It's on election day
You have your facts on
that
this.
elections are won. It's
You have
election
your facts
day.
on this.
That political party, I will not mention the name, but they are watching me. They know I'm not lying. And God knows I'm not lying. So whether I'm not bothered whether people believe me or not, you know. But at least I'm connected enough in our country to know some of what is going on. 1,750,000. It's like a bazaar. It's like a bidding war. If you do not outspend your opponent, you are likely to lose. That's the way they see it now. And you see, the voters will continue to insist that you give them money before you can be sure that they will vote for you, because the feeling they have is that once they get there, they don't care about the masses anymore. So the masses then sheepishly would think, okay, whatever I can get now from these people, let me just get it. But it's your future that you are destroying. Vote your conscience. If the person is not good enough for you, don't vote for him. After Abraham Lincoln said, no man is good enough to govern another person without the person's consent.
Right.
That's the 16th American president. He said so. So our people must vote their conscience. They must let the politicians know that the voters are the king.
Right.
That the power resides in them.
The voters, right.
In a democracy, power resides in the voter, not the politician. But if we allow politicians to continue to do what they are doing to us, then we are telling them that okay, that's a form of role reversal. You are the king. We are not the king. We are supposed to elect them.
Well, it's quite a situation we have in our hands. But well, right now, joining me from Ondo State is Soji Eyinlonwo, who will be talking to us on the state of things in the state ahead of the election. Good to have you with us on Journalist Hangout. So what are your thoughts on the preparation so far to ensure a peaceful, transparent election in Ondo State?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's Prince Soji Eyinlonwo.
Apologies.
Really. In terms of preparation, I think it seems to me that everyone is prepared. The INEC is prepared. The security forces are prepared, and the political parties seem to be prepared. I can say for certain that our party, the APC, to which I belong, to which I'm a chieftain, is very well prepared still for the elections.
You know, with this point as raised, Biko, about the presence of security presence, which is made to ensure a peaceful conduct of elections, there are concerns that it might be used to manipulate the whole electoral process. Do you share the same sentiments?
Well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. The president has assured that the police will do well, just as they did in Edo. And the IG has also made that promise. So let's give them that benefit of the doubt. The president has said they will not get involved in the process. So I want to believe him until the contrary is the case. So I want to believe that the police will be neutral. If they are not neutral, then they will have put themselves to shame, because they promised us that the way they were neutral in Edo, that they are going to be neutral in
All right, we understand Soji is back online. Soji, if you can hear me now, I was asking you about the concerns on security in Ondo State. Do you share the sentiments that it might be used to, manipulate the electoral process?
Please, the security forces, they need to be there so that, to forestall people who want to deny others of exercising their franchise. So I think the level of security it's fine. I think that the security guys will do their job, and people will be allowed to vote and exercise their preferences. So I'm satisfied with that. The security man on the ground is meant to ensure that nobody is intimidated. I'm satisfied with the level of security. I think that people should go out peacefully to vote for their preferred party or preferred candidate.
Let's assess the chances of your party in the polls. Now, what are their chances of APC? Do you think that it might, retain the power in this election coming up?
I'm confident our party will win. And I'm not just confident we're going to win. I'm confident we're going to win in a landslide manner. This governor has delivered. He has performed very creditably well, across all the different areas. Some of his achievements they're very outstanding. In road infrastructure, he has delivered unprecedented road infrastructure program. So the people are going to look at his sterling performance, and he's going to be judged on that. And I think that they're going to give him a very, very outstanding endorsement.
But sometimes we've seen governors who performed and failed to win an election because they didn't get their politics right. What do you think will happen this time?
I think the people of Ondo State, the vast majority of the people of Ondo State, they don't want the hand of the clock to be thrown backwards. I think that if you see from our rallies, you can see the show of love of our people for Governor Akeredolu and our party. So I think that will be very, 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 very critical. He's doing the right things. The party is united behind him. Very, very strongly united. All of the leaders of the party they have campaigned vigorously for him. And the people are, appreciate what's done. And importantly, there's a perception that around the state that this is a governor with integrity. It's called, the talk and do governor. He does what he says, and whatever promises he makes, he fulfills. He's not one to make outlandish promises and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to bring all sorts of things. So people trust him, and that's going to be quite defining.
All right, and let's quickly take a short break. With that, we will be back with more discussions on Journalist Hangout. Stay with us Stay with us here for more after this. Welcome back. You're watching Journalist Hangout. Now, in a country where democracy has become winning elections at all costs, the most powerful politicians are not just snatching victory. Electoral contests now go to the highest bidders. Well, the concept of vote buying is like a hurricane snatching credible elections from our fingers. This may rear its ugly head. Well, again, in Ondo State, and Nigerians are worried about how to curtail this in our electoral process. Now, Babajide, let's look at the elections proper. We know that the battle is between the APC, the PDP, ZLP, and of course 13 other contestants on Saturday. Now, there are concerns that the votes from Akure South and Ondo West could determine who becomes the governor, on October the 10th. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think these local governments might hold the key to the deciding factor on who becomes the governor of Ondo State?
Every local government is important.
Right.
Every local government is important. I don't want to say, if you can win so local government, then you are guaranteed victory. No, you have to do your best to win across the three senatorial zones. It is the candidate, because we have three strong candidates, so it is the candidate able to pick votes here, pick votes here, pick votes here, pick votes here, that will eventually win, because nearly all the three candidates are capable of winning in their areas, their local governments. Although it's possible for one of them to lose his local government. It's possible. We saw it in Edo State. So the point is, you can't focus on your area alone. You must be ready to fish in other waters. So you must be ready to go to the territory of your opponent and do very well there. That's the guarantee for victory. In this kind of contest, if you simply think that, if I do well in about 3 local governments, then I've won the election, then you could be in for a big surprise. So,
but you know, the APC has Owo, which is the incumbent governor's homestead, and Akure South has about 280,000 voters, when Ondo West has 150,000 voters, registered voters. So there's this possibility that, you know, if you hold that, you know, into power, into cognizance, perhaps the APC or the PDP, you know, might find it an opportunity to, you know, take sway in the elections.
again, it's not enough. It's not enough to win Owo, and one more local government and assume that you've won the election. You saw what happened in Imo State.
Right.
The PDP won in the Owerri zone. At the end of the day, they didn't have the spread. And spread is a constitutional requirement. They didn't have the spread across the state. So in the end, the victory of the candidate of the PDP was overturned by the court. They simply didn't have the spread. They won handsomely in Owerri zone. But it was not enough in the final analysis, because you must have the spread. It's not enough to simply win like 3 or 4 local governments and then lose scandalously in other local governments. No, that's not what the Constitution prescribes.
Yeah.
You must have the spread. You must do well. Do well. It's not saying you must win in every local government, but you must do well at least in 2/3 of the local government in the state. So the candidate that will win is the candidate able to
Galvanize.
earn substantial votes
Right.
across board, not simply to just win your zone and do badly in other areas. No, that's not how to win.
So, Wale, you know, with this perception, you know, by BKO, what are your expectations from the parties concerned? Do you think perhaps APC, PDP, and the ZLP, we understand that the major contenders, have a chance to, well, divide the votes, or you might see, you know, a surprise? Okay, since we're having some challenges with Wale, let's quickly throw that to you now, BKO. How about INEC? Do you think, do you trust INEC to be totally impartial?
INEC in the past had arrested and put its own men on trial for rigging elections for politicians. In Akwa Ibom State, INEC arrested senior polling officers who helped politicians to compromise the process. So INEC definitely has some bad eggs. So in such a situation, I cannot totally trust INEC, because it's possible that a few persons may want to compromise the process. But the leadership of INEC has to be vigilant to ensure that this does not happen. It is on Saturday that I will be able to judge INEC. I'll be able to give it a pass mark. I cannot at this stage say, oh, INEC, I'm certain that on Saturday INEC will be totally impartial. There will be no form of bias on the part of INEC. I can't say that at this stage, because I still remember that in Akwa Ibom, they arrested polling officers for aiding politicians to rig election. So until Saturday, we never can tell what will happen. We can only appeal to them to, in the name of God, be impartial. That's what Nigerians want.
Okay, let's quickly go to Michael now, who is a journalist, and he joins me now from Ondo State. Thank you very much, Michael. So give us a feel of what you can tell us is happening in Akure and how the people are anticipating for or preparing for Saturday's elections.
From the look of things, we hope the election will be free. We believe it will be fair, and we anticipate that it will be credible. This is Nigeria, where you don't take anything for granted. The lead contenders are not leaving anything to chances. Everybody is tidying up every loose end. And it is not impossible for people to want to use any opportunity to manipulate it to their own advantage. And that brings to the question of the impartiality of the umpire itself, particularly the INEC officials. And then the security agents will also go a long way in making sure that things are properly done. They shouldn't look away while people are committing electoral infractions. So with that, I believe we will have a semblance of credible poll like we had in Edo a few weeks ago. So,
now,
but for me,
okay, go ahead.
I know all the parties have tried. They have campaigned, they have canvassed, they have done all they needed to do. Then we can now hope that people will come out en masse, exercise their own civic duties, all right, and then let the umpires also deliver on their mandate without fear or favor.
What do you think will happen on election day? How do you rate the chances of the candidates?
Well, for me, I narrow it down to a two-horse race. That's between the two farms. That's the incumbent, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu SAN, and his counterpart in the PDP, the Jegede SAN. The third force will have really made an impact the way people will have expected. But the platform is weak because platform matters in election. If you have a strong candidate with a very weak platform, it may only show appearance, but it may not go far. You see, so PDP is regarded as even stronger at the grassroots because since 2003, when PDP, swept off all the AD governors in the Southwest, PDP have been in charge in Ondo State. So they are well entrenched. Even the last presidential election, they won. As at now, they have two senators in the upper chambers, and then I think they have 5 to 4 or thereabouts in the House of Senate. So I think PDP is a strong force. And more so, their candidate comes from the largest voting area of the state. And then I won't say, I don't want to sound negative, I think the opinion of the public concerning the APC at the center may be visited on the candidate also. People are not happy. So that is one side. But
so you expect PDP to win?
To enjoy some popularity, in some parts of the state, or let me say, he has his supporters scattered all around. So it will be too close to call between Jegede and the incumbent.
You are not sticking your neck out.
No. If I say Akeredolu will win and Jegede will eventually become the victor, I've not said anything out of place, but it's dicey.
Well, from your analysis, you appear to give the greater strength to the PDP.
Yes. If the election is allowed to be free, to be fair, and people's vote count, I still give a Ajayi of 55%.
Okay. That's close to a landslide.
Close to a landslide indeed. Thank you very much, Michael.
That's not landslide.
Thank you, Michael, for giving us update. Okay.
There are things going for them.
All right. So what are those things?
For example, in Ondo State now, 10 political or 11 collapse their structures for Ajayi Jegede. Even one party that proclaimed support for the governor, the deputy also sided with Ajayi Jegede. That party itself is divided. So whichever way you look at it, either 5 supporters, 10 supporters here and there with the bulk. Okay, now let me tell you a scenario. The bulk of the voters, the APC voters in Ondo State will be shared between the incumbent and the ZLP candidate is deputy.
That's a fine place to leave it, Michael. Michael, we appreciate your insight so far on the program. We cannot take further than what we have already. We appreciate your insights so far on Journalist Hangout. So let's quickly get your position on this now, Wale. From what he said so far, Wale, if you can hear me, from what he said so far, ideally he's predicting PDP to coast home to victory. But what's your position? And what's your position rather on this two-horse race between the APC and the PDP, and the likely possibility that the PDP might coast home to victory?
Certain things that the premises are not correct. In 2015, that he made reference to, there was disagreement in the APC, internal crisis, and that affected the outcome of the election. But this governorship election, the incumbent has been able to resolve the differences between him and other stalwarts in the APC. Yes. For instance, Boroface is working for Akeredolu. Olushola Oke is working for Akeredolu. The last election, if you remember, Olushola Oke had 126,889 votes, while Aketi had 224,842. Jegede had only 150,000. And Olushola is now working for Akeredolu. So if you combine the two votes of Olushola Oke and Akeredolu in 2016, it will be 2 times the vote of Jegede. People are talking about Akure North and Akure South. The fact is that Akure is the capital of Ondo State. It is made up of different people from different local governments that come to Akure, as civil servants to come and work and to live. So it does not mean to reflect indigenous votes for Jegede. And don't also forget that Akeredolu's mother is from the south. So I believe it's going to have a lot of votes from the south, and also it's going to have a lot of votes in the center, where a lot of people from other 18 local governments live.
Okay,
and
let's take a short break now. Apologies, I have to cut you in. We need to go for a commercial break. We will come back and we'll have more discussions on Journalist Hangout. Stay with us after this. Well, our correspondent Akeredolu Zubakun joins me now from Akure to give us updates on the preparations for the elections on Saturday. AY, so tell us what you're seeing on ground.
Yes, Esther, it's almost done and dusted. By midnight today, they are going to round off campaigns, and most of these political parties, they've had their mega rallies yesterday, especially the APC and the People's Democratic Party. And as your analyst said earlier, it's just a race between 3 political parties. There are 17 political parties that are going to be running, but those 3 major political parties are the ones that might ultimately, one of them, we decide who we actually take the day on Saturday. That's the People's Democratic Party, the All Progressive Congress, and the late entry of the Zenith Labour Party. And they seem to have all their strength in their senatorial districts. Okay, let's say the All Progressive Congress, the governor is from the Northern Senatorial District, is from our local government in the Northern Senatorial District, and the whole of that senatorial district, if you look at it, you see a lot of strong chieftains of the All Progressive Congress. They are working as one now. That's the same senatorial district that Professor Ajayi is from, is the senator representing that area, and the man that contested against the governor 4 years ago, Olusegun Ibrahim, is also in the fray and is campaigning rigorously with the governor. So for the Northern Senatorial District, the APC will say they're almost secured. But don't always forget that Jegede is from the Central Senatorial District, that is the Akure axis, and they claim that they have the highest number of in terms of voting strength. But a lot of other candidates will want to make a kind of Akure a kind of battleground so that they can get and slice the number of votes of the People's Democratic candidate. That is the same thing that will be happening in the southern senatorial district. Now, if you ask the deputy governor, Ajayi, he will tell you that he has locked down the southern senatorial district, the largest Ondo area. But don't also forget that the certain Olushola Oke is from the All Progressive Congress, is also a strong man in that southern that district. What the permutation is now is that we might not see anything called a landslide victory. We are going to see something that is very slim, that people will have to eke out votes from each of these senatorial districts to emerge, and you'll try as much as possible to have the spread, as BKO said earlier. So it's going to be difficult for somebody to come up with a landslide victory on Saturday, because it's a very, very close contest. Don't forget, the Zenith Labour Party now, they can also lay claim to even the central senatorial district through the Ondo axis. That is the strong man of the Zenith Labour Party, the former governor of this state, Rahman Olusegun, is from Ondo State. So certain variables and factors will play out on Saturday. So what they are looking at now is that the analysts are saying money politics will be involved. Analysts are saying it was difficult to influence the process in INEC, because at the polling unit, you get your results from the polling unit and it will be uploaded. So if INEC continues with this trend, it will be difficult to tamper with whatever the pattern, whatever INEC has put in place to make sure we have a credible election. So people might have to work on the voter, and they've reported inducement, financial inducement in Akure South. There's been cases of financial inducement in Owo. There's been cases of financial inducement in Akoko North and Idori. So right now, we don't know. In the next 24 hours, politicians are going to put together their strategies and ultimately how they are going to take the day on Saturday. Whoever comes up with a superior strategy will definitely come up as the
winner of the day. Thank you very much, Akeredolu Zubaku, for bringing us up to speed from Akure and what we anticipate on Saturday. So let's come back to you, BKO. What are your predictions now on Saturday's elections? Already we've had from Michael Owe, we've had from AY, we've had from Mr. Wale. What are your predictions on Saturday?
Well, I've looked at the strength of the candidates and the local governments that they are likely to win. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, so I can't really go deep into all of the work that I've done. On Ondo North, we have 27% of the eligible voters. Ondo South, 33% of the eligible voters, and then Ondo Central, 39%. I project that Ajayi of ZLP will be able to win in Okitikupa, because he's even more popular in Okitikupa than Ondo. And then he will do very well in Fedore because his deputy is from there. He will do well in Ondo West and Ondo East and Ondo. But I'm not certain that he will win Ondo, because Olushola Oke is very strong there. Jegede, I project that Jegede will win Akure North and Akure South, and he will also battle with Alasho Adura in Akure North. Akeredolu, I project that we will win 11 local governments. Akoko Northeast, that's Ikare. Northwest, Okeagbe. Southeast is Shua. Akoko Southwest, where Borofis and the founder of the Unity Forum, Aliolanusi, come from. They are working hard for the governor. He will win Ileoluji and Okeigbo local government. He will win Irele, because of Abba Meshaba, my old schoolmate, who is very strong in that area. He will win Ilaje, because of the deputy governor, and because of he will win Odigbo, and he will win, I expect him to win Owo. Of 4 places, he has to win Owo. He will win Ose, and I expect him to win Hidori. The truth is, he's done so well to reunite with the people that he used to quarrel with in the APC. And this, for me, is the difference maker. People like Ali Olanusi, had been quarreling with him for some time, but we have them on his side now. Abraham, Borofis, Kekemeke, Shola Iji, Ife Oyedele, and many other people. So with these people and with Makinde, who is believed to be the new face of politics in Ondo Kingdom, supporting, it's called Osha Prapra, supporting the governor. I want to say that I expect Governor Akeredolu to win. I'm not afraid to predict because of what happened in Edo. I have absolutely no shame in predicting that Akeredolu will carry the day on Saturday. There are so many things working for him.
Okay, so wait and see how that turns out Saturday. Thank you very much, Babajide Kolade Otitoju, for your insights as usual on Journalist Hangout. And our guest previously, I'd like to thank Soji Einlanwo and Wole Adeoye, and of course our reporter, correspondent in Akure, Akeredolu Ozubaku. Thank you all for being a part of today's program. That's it on today's show. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I am Esther Mokariola. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.